All right, man. We live.
All right, peace to the people. Ain't nobody even in here yet, but we share the show actually. Well, how they come in. Yeah, a little second.
ETM Hotel, Brendan Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. We got Brothers Tech. He going in live in just a few. While you coming in, man, please like the show, share the show, tell a friend that we live, man, and let's get it in. So we just sharing the show right now. In the meantime, uh, you see the title to the show. We're gonna get it in. So um, that's all I got for right now, man. Tech, you
Yep.
got anything you want?
I go ahead.
Nah, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I'm just saying peace to the people as y'all come in. Like Sean said, man, like the show and share the show. We're gonna get into Whydah, the kingdom of Whydah. I know a lot of people have probably heard this claim. Uh, Whydah is Judah, and that they was the Hebrew Israelite kingdom, and so on. But most of it is based on this one map. But we gonna get into that map. We gonna get into who made that map, why it's made, and say what it say. And we gonna get into the life inside the kingdom, how they lived, day-to-day basis, what they did. We all know that there was a slave trading kingdom. We gonna dig into that too. We're gonna dig into a little bit of everything. So hopefully I put forth something that y'all can take home, something new that you ain't never heard of today. That's my goal. So yeah, let me shut the show on one more group and I'll be ready for y'all. Okay. All right, we can get started. I'm pretty sure more people will come in as we get going. This is Life Inside the Kingdom of Whydah. Was Whydah a Hebrew Israelite kingdom? Was Whydah the kingdom of Judah, the biblical kingdom of Judah? So let's start. And we on the, as you see on the right hand side, we got a picture, an image of a person from Judah. This is how they were depicted. We will get into how they dress, what colors were royal. We're gonna get into all that, man. So without further ado, let's get into it. My introduction is with the steady rise of black, with the steady rise in the black Hebrew Israelite cults that make the claim that blacks, aka African Americans, I'm speaking specifically, about African Americans are Israelites, primarily from the tribe of Judah, comes the revision of history to substantiate their pseudo historical assertions. One of the most popular of these hypotheses is that the kingdom of Whydah in West Africa was that of the Israelites that scattered from their native homeland in Southwest Asia. By using an European map from the mid 18th century, they attempt to make this false connection while ignoring all other historical context. I will attempt to show that this is the mistake of Asiatic romanticism and an extreme case of confirmation bias by using primary, contemporary, and academic secondary literature while showing the true culture. So this is what I plan to do. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm gonna see if this video play. This is the claim. Now you hear him. He said on the west coast of Africa on this map.
Nah, we couldn't hear it. We couldn't hear it.
Oh yeah, y'all didn't hear it?
Uh-uh.
Oh, oh okay. Well, let me just explain. Tazariak is claiming that Whydah is Judah from this map on the west coast of Africa. He's claiming that Whydah is Judah because of the spelling. And better yet, let me get to the next slide and I'll just show y'all. This is the map. I don't know if I got a delay. Okay, this is the map. As you see in red, it says the kingdom of Judah or Whydah, slave coast. And you see they emphasize Judah on the top and on the bottom. So this is where he's getting his claim from. And again, his claim is that this kingdom, it says Judah, Juda, or Whydah, where it says slave coast, is a Hebrew Israelite kingdom. He says that's them. And that's how he got here to America, which, of course, don't make no sense just off the top. But let's move on. We're gonna deal with a little bit of the history first. Whydah is situated on the coastal area of the modern Republic of Benin in West Africa. In origin, it is an indigenous African town which has existed long before the French colonial occupation in 1892. In its pre colonial period, it belonged to two African states. First, the Kingdom of Whydah or Whydah, and from 1727, that of Dahomey. So, first it was its own kingdom, Whydah or Whydah, and then it got taken over in 1727 by Dahomey, and it was integrated into the Dahomeyan kingdom. The first inhabitants of the kingdom today remains the Fon, today remains the Fawn. That means those people that was there in the time of this kingdom are still there. The first inhabitants of the kingdom today remain Fawn, with French inherited from colonization superimposed as the official language of education and administration. In the pre-colonial period, Whydah served as the major outlet for the exportation of slaves for the transatlantic slave trade. So they were slave traders. Most of us already knew this. For anybody who didn't, they were slave traders, major slave traders. So you already got a
You
strike
broke
against you.
up.
I broke up. Can you hear me now?
You sounding good on my end, Tech. I don't know how the audience is. I'll look and see. Does everything sound good out in the audience?
Yeah, let
Hold
me
on.
know how it
Yeah, yeah,
sounds.
yeah. You good. You good.
Okay. So yeah, as I was saying though, this was a major player, one of the most, if not the most major player in the slave trade. Um, so you already got a strike against you by saying that these people sold you. I wish I could have heard the video. This is what he said. These people in the kingdom of Whydah sold him, but he is the kingdom of Whydah. Like it kind of makes no sense whatsoever. Whydah was the slave traders, but he's saying that he was the one, they were the ones being traded. So how can Whydah be the slave traders and the people that's being traded? Like it just really makes no sense. But let's keep going. In the pre-colonial period, Whydah served as a major outlet for the exportation of slaves for the transatlantic slave trade. The section of the African coast in which Whydah kingdom was situated was known to Europeans as the slave coast. So that's how many slaves was getting sold that Europeans called it the slave coast. All right. According to Fon oral tradition, the Aja settlers that established themselves at present day Alada arrived in southern Benin around the 12th or 13th century, coming from Tado on the Mano River. The Alada kingdom was the neighbor of the Oyo kingdom to whom they were a vassal and paid tribute. Before the 17th century, the Aja people populated the region of Whydah and its inland predecessors, Alada. In the 1650s, Whydah started breaking away from Alada and establishing itself as an independent and powerful polity of warriors, slavers, and traders. In 1671, the French moved their trading factory from Alada to Whydah, and the English and Portuguese were soon to follow. So, first, the Europeans were primarily doing trade on the slave coast with Alada. Then, uh, first, the French took the first step to move to Whydah in 1671, and like it says, soon after, the English and the Portuguese followed suit and came to Whydah to do business too. All right, in local tradition, King Kapase is supposed to have founded the town, probably towards the end of the 16th century. The capital of this kingdom was Savi, which which was situated about 7 miles from the seaside. In this town, the king allowed Europeans convenient houses for their factories. The king protected Europeans, allowed them to do their business and leave safely. In 1702, the Akwamu, an expanding powerful pre-Ashanti kingdom, a Khan subgroup, conquered the conquered the kingdom of Whydah and had influence on the kingdom for a quarter of a century. Whydah fell as a kingdom in 1727 and the conquest of King Agaja of Dahomey, wherein the king and his royal court fled and ran in fright to a nearby island rather than fight. So in 1727, King Agaja of Dahomey rolled up on uh, the king of Whydah, and instead of fighting, basically they ran. They took off and fled to a nearby island. They didn't want no smoke. Whydah then became assimilated as part of the Dahomey kingdom. So let's talk a little bit about life inside of Whydah, the customs and uh, the things that they did, how the country looked, what it was known for. In most general terms, Whydah was considered a middleman community, not only for exchange and commodity, but also intermediary in the transmission of cultural influences. It was said that slaves were so plentiful in the interior of Africa that two were sometimes sold for a handful of salt in Whydah. These prisoners of war came from inland countries where there were markets for men as there were in Europe for beasts. When a cargo of them arrived at Whydah, they were conducted to prison, from whence they were drawn out into a large open plain where they were stripped and examined by European surgeons. Their mouth and teeth were inspected to tell their age, and they were made to jump and stretch their arms to show that they were healthy. All above 35 years of age, sickly, maimed, or blemished, if only by loss of a tooth, were set aside. So they only wanted A plus, A plus plus. The young and healthy were paid for in calories and goods. The women being one fourth or one fifth less than the men. So again, you see the calories being used as currency. Me and Kofi had a presentation um, on Kofi Pasai TV called Cowrie Shells in Africa. You can check that out. We talk about that West Africa and a lot of other places in Africa. Cowrie shells being used as currency, and you see that here. European traders deemed the Negroes at Whydah to be so civilized that it was a pleasure to deal with them. Their greatest inconvenience was being exposed to the thievery of the common Negroes. The customs of the country allowed polygamy to an excessive degree. The land was so cultivated that only footpaths were unplanted with grains. So this was a very vegetated place. Yet the country was so populated and so much grain was sold to neighboring nations that it was often scarce before harvest. A barren year reduced free men to liberate their slaves and sell them or their families for want of sustenance. So they so grimy, bro. They're selling their family. Uh, I don't think this is something that Israelites do, but maybe I'm wrong. Where was I at? The king was draped in gold and silver, and no one was ever to see him eat or drink from a glass or cup used by him. Let's keep going. None of the king's subjects daring to stand before him, regardless of rank. He was seemingly worshipped as the he was seemingly worshipped as the common people raised him as an idol above the common functions and wants of human nature. So seemingly the king was revered, worshipped above uh, common functions and wants of nature. Basically, he was put above anything else that the common folk would want or need. He came first, the king. When they would salute him in the morning, they would prostrate themselves on the ground at the door of his house and kiss the earth 3 times, clapping their hands and whispering words of adoration for the king. It sounds very African to me. This is an African custom. This is not an Asiatic custom. This is not a Judaic custom, Hebrew, whatever you want to call it. This is straight from Africa. This has nothing to do with anything Asiatic, Southwest Asia. They crawled on all fours in his presence while repeating the same reverence and remained prostrated on the earth until the monarch retired for the day. When the king would die, so would the order and honesty. As soon as his death was public, the people would steal their neighbors' property openly and not being liable to punishment. This system continued until the new king was crowned and was instantly stopped. So it was anarchy whenever the king died. Whenever it was known that the king died, the town went crazy. They just did whatever they want to do, stealing their neighbors' stuff, uh, open acts of violence, etc. But when the new king came in and implemented the rules, they immediately stopped. Red was the color of the royal family and was forbidden to be worn by anyone else. Gambling was so common that when money and goods were little to none, they would wager their wives, children, and their lands. They gambled so hard that they would sell their own family, that they would gamble their own family and their land away if need be. If a man was to commit adultery with the wife of a rich man, not only would he be beheaded, but his whole family sold into slavery. Battles were won by way of large numbers alone, as the king could field over 200,000 men. So you see on the right the door of no return. This is where a lot of our ancestors went through uh, to get onto the ships to never be seen again, at least in the old world, and they were brought to the new world. So this is a very emotional place, a place I actually want to visit one day soon. But yeah, I'm letting y'all. I'm not trying to get share my opinion too much because I want y'all to make up your own mind on this. The name Whydah is an anglicized form of Zwida. It was Judah to the French, Ajuda to the Portuguese, and Fida to the Dutch. You have to pay close attention to that. Each uh, each set of Europeans has a different way of pronouncing this kingdom, the name of this kingdom, and that's for a reason. The town was originally known as Gleywe or Glehue. If I said that right, which I probably didn't, which literally means farmhouse. And this would attest to the uh, the lush vegetation in the kingdom. The Fon language can be transcribed most accurately as a phonetic script can be employed, which includes some letters additional to or with different values from the standard Latin alphabet. This script is not widely used in writing, However, con words and names being more commonly spelled in the standard Latin alphabet, thereby losing some of their distinctions made in the phonetic script. Very often, moreover, spelling follows French conventions, offering, for example, OU for U, DJ for J, C for K. So these letters and these vowels, depending on the language or the script that you use, can be changed and interchanged. That's a big reason why you see different pronunciations or different variations of the name of this kingdom for different speakers of different languages. As an illustrative uh, as an illustrative example, the name of the kingdom from which that of the town of Whydah is derived may be written Zweda, Xweda, in the phonetic script, Hueda, Hueda, in the Latin alphabet, or Hoeda, Houeda, in the French spelling. So hopefully y'all catching that. In a few cases, corrupt early forms of local toponyms have become sanctioned by usage and remain in general use today. Examples being the names of the kingdom of Dahomey and its capital, Abomey, rather than the more strictly correct Danhome and Agbome. So that was an example of the corruptions being used as the standard now. I'll give the definition for franchise or Frenchify, to alter in linguistic or literary form to approximate that the French language, that of the French language. And it gives an example: riding coat would be franchised to Ridignote, or however you say that. Linguistic anglicization. I had to say that slow. Linguistic anglicization is the practice of modifying foreign words, names, and phrases in order to make them easier to spell, pronounce, or understand in English. The term commonly refers to the respelling of foreign words, often to a more drastic degree than that implied in, for example, romanization. One instance of the word dandelion modified from the French dent de lion, or lion's tooth, a reference to the plant's sharply indented leaves. The term can also refer to a phonological adaptation without spelling change. Spaghetti, for example, is accepted in English with Italian spelling, but anglicized phonetically. So even though spaghetti, or the spelling of it at least, is Italian, the 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 phonetics of how we say it in English is different. Like it's spelled the same, but we say it different. So we're gonna get into the map. This is the full version of the map that is used to make the claim in question. It is said to be made in 1747 by an English map engraver by the name of Emmanuel Bowen, who worked for George II of England and Louis XV of France as a geographer. These are two kings, George II and Louis XV. He worked, this English dude work for an English king and a French king. Hence the anglicized and Frenchized linguistic modifications of Whydah and Judah on the map. So I'm saying that you see these anglicized and Frenchified uh, terms or variations of Whydah on this map because the map maker is an English dude who was making maps for an English king and a French king. And if that don't make sense, I don't know what will. The languages, the first inhabitants of the Whydah kingdom were of the Fon linguistic group. It's a typo. It's supposed to be Fon. Fon is a part of the Eastern Bay language cluster and belongs to the Volta Niger branch of the Niger Congo languages. Now I know that these phylums are uh, not proper to use anymore, but you know I'm not a linguist, so I'm doing the best I can. Fon is spoken mainly in Benin by approximately 1.7 million speakers. The Aja language is a Gbade language of the Niger Congo language, spoken by the Aja people, and it is closely related to other Gbade languages such as Ewe, Mina, Fan, and Flefera. Yoruba is a language spoken in West Africa. It is classified among the Idekiri, if I said that right, languages, and together with Itsekiri and the isolate Okala, form of the Yoruboid languages, form of the Yoruboid group of languages within the Volta Niger branch of the Niger Congo family. So I gave all them three languages because I wanted to show the languages that were in the area. You have the Aja languages, you have the Yoruba language. So basically, it was basically just Gbade languages, GBE, that that language group, and you had Yoruba, you have Niger Congo, Niger Volta. I don't see any Semitic languages anywhere in the area, no matter how hard I look. Now, if you can find a Semitic language in the kingdom of Whydah at that time, then you can come back to me and I will make corrections in public. I don't know if y'all will hear this video. Since y'all didn't hear the last video, I can try to play it. And y'all just let me know in the chat if y'all can hear it or not. If not, I'll turn it off and we can keep going. It's no big deal. He's saying the same thing that I've been saying. Is that it's no, they don't know anything about any Hebrew Israelites.
Nah, we can't hear. You will have to if you want us to hear what he's saying, you're gonna have to take your screen at the top of your page and hit let me see here. Let me see. I'm trying to tell you what you can do. Is go to at the top, there should be something that says more, or next to your microphone, there should be an arrow that says up. And then it'll ask you if you want to add computer audio on your screen at the top if you hover over.
Well, I'm sharing my whole screen, so I don't think it'll.
Nah, it would have did it on your whole screen share. But where it says your name at, or you You doing it? You see your name at the top? Or
Yeah.
go on that, just go on the presentation and turn the volume on.
All right. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna play. It's all right, man. It's all good. Y'all can that's the brother damn, what is his name?
It's playing right now. I heard it saying something, but it was low.
Nah, that was the feedback from my phone. I got the YouTube up on my phone. That was me talking.
Okay, do you is this on your computer?
Yeah, it's on my tablet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but y'all can if y'all want to watch that video, I'll come back in the comments and leave a link for it. It's just the brother Dynas Demir. He's in Whydah and he's with a voodoo priest, and he's asking them about have they ever heard of Hebrew Israelites? Was the kingdom of Whydah ever a Hebrew Israelite uh, kingdom? They don't even know nothing about that. They act the way they act is if they never even heard of no Hebrew Israelites. It's new to them. But voodoo has always been in Whydah from the beginning of the kingdom, and they know nothing about Israelites being there. They never saw Israelites. They never were Israelites. But I'll leave that link for y'all so y'all can check that out. All right. So speaking of, we get into the religion. The people of Whydah and an almighty and omnipresent creator of the universe. Okay. The people of Whydah believe in an almighty and omnipresent creator of the universe, but he was not an object of their worship. That's I'm gonna remind that because that's a major factor, and that's something that's very common in African systems. You will see that in most African systems, um, their supreme deity is not worshipped. He's not. You don't see no shrines for uh, Olodumare. You know what I mean? For example. So let me rewind that. The people of Whydah believe in an almighty and omnipresent creator of the universe, but he was not an object of their worship, as they thought him too highly exalted above him to trouble themselves about the affairs of mankind. When they undertook any matter of importance, they committed its success to the first object that appeared on their going out of the house, a dog, a cat, or any other animal. The newly constituted deity would be given an offering with a vow that if proven successful, it would be revered, otherwise, it was rejected and returned to its primitive estate. So basically, um, whenever they are going on a venture that's needed, a venture where success is needed. Whenever they go out the house, the first thing they see is going to be the reason for their success if it's successful. So if the first thing they see when they come out of the house is a bird, for example, and whatever venture they're looking to do, they're successful in, they will attribute that success to that bird or whatever it is that they first see when they walk out of their house. That's just one aspect. The Republic of Benin is home to the Voodoo religion, and their overwhelming majority, natives of Benin, despite past and current assault against Voodoo, have remained steadfast in their indefectible ancestral Voodoo religion. Voodoo and Benin make a natural combination and are inseparable. Voodoo is the word Voodoo is the word in the Fang Bei language for spirit and is used to denote African deities and ancestors and the worship of those deities and ancestors. The Fang call Voodoo by many names. The Voodoo pantheon is vast and includes many deities and divinities with varying importance. The world was created by Nana Bukulu and an androgynous supreme being. I'm going to rewind that again. The world was created by Nana Bukulu, an androgynous male aspects and female aspects, an androgynous supreme being. From Nana Bukulu came the twins Mawu and Lisa. First on the list of primary deities in Dahomey Voodoo pantheon. So Nana Bukulu is not worship. He's the supreme being. Most supreme beings or supreme deities in Africa are not worshipped. So the first on the list is Mawu and Lisa. They are the top. Mawu and Lisa are responsible for the creations of the heaven and earth. Mawu, the female principle, corresponds to the moon and is associated with the night, fertility, motherhood, gentleness, and joy, all characteristics that one sees in women. The male principle, or excuse me, Lisa, the male principle, corresponds to the sun and is associated with day, heat, strength. I put heat again, war, power, toughness, and all things that characterize a man. So these are what you would see worship. You wouldn't see Yahweh. You wouldn't see Elohim. You wouldn't see Jehovah or Yahovah. You wouldn't see Yahoo. None of that. You would see Mawu and Lisa, and they wasn't even the supreme. The supreme was Nana Bukulu. So it's not it's not looking too good for this being an Israelite kingdom. The people of Whydah had three public objects of devotion: some lofty trees, which is the baobab tree, uh, the sea, and a certain sort of snake. Excuse me. The chief of these was the snake, Dangbe, the trees and the sea not interfering with his government, but being subject to his superintendence and reproof. The snake was invoked in all excesses of the seasons, in all difficulties of the state, in all dangers of the cattle, in all circumstances not committed to the previous mentioned deities of chance. So those deities of chance would be um, the dog or the cat or the bird or whatever they first see when they walk out of the house. Those would be the deities of chance that is referring to. But the snake, Dangbe, the python, was their main thing. It was their main thing. It was their main object of worship. And on the right, you see the crowning of the king of Whydah. This is done by Jacob van der and 17 from he this dude lived from 1715 to 1779. So this image was created somewhere in between that time. I couldn't get the exact date, but as you see on the top, uh, it says Judah, Juida, and as you will see in the center of the picture, you will see Dangbe, that python that they're talking about. You see all of Whydah is crowded around this python. This is what happens at the coronation of the king. Not um, they ain't praising Yahweh, they ain't praising Elohim, they ain't praising Jehovah, they ain't. It's Python, the sacred forest of Kapase or Kapase Zone is the name of the forest. And Whydah is dominated by huge ancient trees, accompanied by sculptures and wood carvings representing voodoo deities, also called loas. One large Iroko tree is said to be the site where King Pase, the founder of Whydah, turned into a tree to escape his enemies. When Voodunsi, or devotees of Voodoo, care for the sacred forest of Kapase, they understand that they are caring for their ancestors, as the spirits of their ancestors are reincarnated into the Naga Iroko trees that the Fan called Loco. So their ancestors are reincarnated into these trees. That's why these trees are such an object of worship. When they have transitioned into mono trees, they will also require care and protection from their kin. So not Yahweh, not Elohim, they worshiping trees over here. Shu or Zu or Agbe or Tovodun is the voodoo of the sea. This is the voodoo of the sea that they were speaking of. We touched on the python, Dangbe. We touched on the Iroko trees uh, that their ancestors are coming back reincarnated as, that they care for in the sacred forest. Now we're gonna get into the sea voodoo. He was the third son of Maulisa or Sogbo. He had a female twin named Naete, who was also his wife. Maulisa is one is the one who told Agbe and Naete to inhabit the sea and command the waters. And I have an image of Agbe and his twin sister Naete on the right here. When asked about the origins of the universe, the typical fine person will refer to Nanabukulu, the deity who is the supreme being. Nanabukulu bore two children, Mawu and Lisa. According to the Fawn, after the goddess after God created the universe, she removed herself from the dealings of men. Because of this, humans have to resort to appeasing lesser gods and goddesses for favors. Together, Mawu Lisa represents the pantheon of sky deities. Mawu, who is the moon, has female attributes and represents the element of coolness in the fine culture. We're just touching back over this again. Lisa, the sun, has male attributes and is symbolic of fiery elements. By collective name, the two deities represent a collective of lesser deities and lesser gods and goddesses that make up the sky pantheon. According to Fon belief, Mawu was given the task of creating the world with the assistance of Legba, the trickster, and Adiwedo, the snake. All right, now I give my conclusion to everything that you see in this presentation. My conclusion to is this the kingdom of Whydah, a an Israelite kingdom, was it inhabited by Israelites, were were Israelites the subject of the slave trade? Did Israelites have anything to do with Whydah or its kingdom or its trade? As one can see from the information previously disseminated from the slides, there seems to be absolutely no Hebraic influence on the culture of Whydah, with a serious lack of cultural markers such as Hebrew language, foods, religion, and holy days such as Passover, Shabbat, Yom Kippur, and etc. Also, we fail to see Yah or Yahweh, as Voodoo has been a part of the landscape of modern day Benin Togo region since times immemorial. Python worship was and still is prevalent. The multiple versions of names of this kingdom came from Europeans imposing their anglicized and Frenchized form of the name of the people onto the kingdom. The maker of the map was a European Englishman that made maps for the King of Great Britain and the King of France, which is why we see Frenchized and Anglicized forms of the name of the kingdom on the map. Furthermore, Whydah was slave traders. Whydah was slave traders, not slaves themselves, which would mean that Judah sold their own people, which is very rare in African culture. This is a prime and sad example of how our people will revise history to claim other cultures and deny their own. So that's my conclusion. Um, I went through the religion, I went through the everyday life, showed you how the people are, how they act, how they think. Uh, I showed you the customs. I showed you what they worship, who they worship, and how they worship. I showed you this map. I showed you who made the map. I showed you why it has different variations of uh, for the name of this kingdom of Whydah. I showed man, I showed it all. So my conclusion is we see no Hebrew influence. We see no Semitic influence on this culture at all. We don't see any. We see the opposite. We see African culture. We see them worshiping pythons. We see them revering and worshiping lesser divinities rather than worshiping and revering the supreme deity, which wasn't even Yahweh in the first place. Um, Something I want to add that I meant to put into the presentation is scarification. Now, if you look at these people, even today in Whydah, they have certain scarification marks. These scarification marks line up with uh, marks from this specific python, which they refer to, they worship as Dangbe. this python has certain marks or coloration on his face, and the people of Whydah use that as their scarification. I think it's like 5 marks on each side. Either way, this is what they do. This is who they revere. They revere the snake. They even have scarification um, following the snake, the python. They don't. They don't. They don't speak any Semitic languages. They don't have any Semitic cultures or cultural practices or customs, um, except for maybe uh, circumcision, which I wouldn't call that a Semitic custom anyway. We first see it in Africa, and it's all throughout Africa. So generally, it's an African custom. So I mean, if anybody out there can show me any Semitic influence, any Hebrew Israelite influence on this kingdom, then I will gladly correct myself. But as of now, we don't see it. And I use not only secondary sources, a lot of this came from primary sources. So speaking of, my references, quite a few of them I wanted to touch all bases when I was dealing with this presentation because I know they're just gonna look at this and then go right back to saying what they were saying. But it's all good now. Y'all can check out those sources, vet those sources, and you can get the information for yourself. So you can start correcting these people and teaching them the right way. And even if they don't want to listen, there's always other people that do that's around. So that's all I got for y'all, man. That's all I got for y'all. And subscribe. I gotta say subscribe to the Mises, subscribe to COVID Pass TV, and subscribe to the Says Shoe. Other than that, that's it for me.
Hey, Sutek,
What's up?
is there any connection to the country, Whydah, and the ship Whydah?
Yeah, the Whydah
Um,
Galley. The Whydah
yeah,
Galley was
for the
actually
audience.
it was a it was a I didn't get into that too much, but I know it was a slave ship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can't remember exactly where it wrecked at, but yeah, it that's exactly where they got their name from. The
Right.
Whydah Galley slave ship is comes the name comes from the kingdom of Whydah. So yeah,
Wrecked and found, and they classified as the first found pirate ship, but it started off, as you said, as a slave ship,
right.
and it was just so everybody knows, and maybe we can do some further investigation to see how that the trade took place because you did have free people of African descent on that ship. Um, one name that I came across for certain, and I'll type it in the chat in case anybody wants it, is a man by the name of Hendrik Quinter. Let me type that in there real quick. But this goes along with the Cimarron stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah, that'll be something that I have to look into. I actually enjoyed putting this presentation together and reading the primary, man. I'm gonna have to get more into it. I think I'm gonna do something on Benin actually, because this was on Whydah, but I learned a lot of stuff also about Benin, or Dahomey Kingdom. So yeah, that might be coming soon. I might need to check out that with the galley ship too.
Yeah. I haven't looked too much into this personally myself, Is there any truth to Whydah getting his name from the bird Whydah? It's ironic that you mentioned bird, and that was one of my notes that I had down.
Well, yeah, some people say that. I'm not sure. Some people say it comes from the bird, though the name Whydah comes from the bird. It is the indigenous name of the country for a bird,
Hmm.
for a specific bird. But also it's been put forth that Hueda, Hueda, were the name of the people. So it could have been, it could be either way. It could go either way.
Yeah, I just like asking questions that might, spark people's interest, ex- especially throwing out topics that kids could get involved in. But good build. Let me see if Sean got anything to say, or if the audience got any questions.
Yeah, let me look in the chat.
One of the things I see Sean typing stuff in there. One of the things about the leadership that they put forth the argument that blacks was treated equally on it was once they found the remains of it, the way they found who I can't remember the jewelry that they found. I want to say it was Madagascar. It was some country from African origins, jewelry and a form of currency, but it was divided equally amongst the ship crew, and they have a listing of majority of the people on the ship, and I want to say 30 plus of them were Africans. But I have to do some more research into that to really verify everything.
Yeah, that's something I have to. That's something I have to look into. Like I said, I've heard. I know I've heard about the Weeda Galley, but I've never really looked into it. So that's something that I wouldn't even really talk about because I don't really know nothing about it like that.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah, I
I
know.
brought it. I honestly brought it up for a more underlining reason for all those that say, where are the slave ships? I was kind of throwing that one out while we was on the topic of it, because this is one of them that they found.
Yeah,
So
and then you got the Henrietta Marie. You got I can't think of the other one. I got a video actually on my page um that shows where a couple of these slave ships are. Yeah, where they found it, where they found them. I think one of them was like off the coast of man, I don't want to say. I gotta go back, but yeah, I got a video on my page that actually talking about that. They showing I don't know if it's the Henrietta Marie or the other one. But yeah, man, we got ships. They in the museum. They in the museums. They found them, and they still finding more. Actually,
hmm
yeah. I'm trying to see can I find this scarification picture for y'all because I meant to put that in the presentation. That was a big part of it. Okay, let me see. So
The Whydah Pirate Museum is in Yarmouth, Massachusetts. It's $35 to get in there. If you want to go to the Whydah Pirate Museum.
yep, and then you can go into the sacred forest too, and you can go all up in there, man. If they feel like this is a Israelite kingdom, I want to see one of them go over there. Show it. Show me your king. We got the brother Dynast over there. all up and through Whydah, talking to everybody. Ain't nobody ever heard of them. Nobody heard of no Israelites. He going all through the sacred forest. He talking to the priests. Don't nobody know nothing about them, man.
Nah, the people that are close to the area are converts claiming something because they have been converted. Anytime you hear anybody embellishing about that, it's all conversions, which is another thing that the Israelites do not confess to is being converts. You know what I mean? Because once they admit that there was a conversion took place, then that means that originally they wasn't them people.
Right.
People
I
you
mean anybody.
converted to these beliefs because you were forced to convert because they were getting ready to ship your behind off to a new world, and you felt and they told you that you could be spared and or saved or protected by this Jesus in that conversion. So pretty much this missionary work went hand in hand with the enslaved, which also cost your behind twice, spiritually and physically. Yeah, you profess to be these people that you're not, which goes back to the show that was on the Dagger Squad earlier today with the information that led up until the whole first hour and some change or whatever.
Shit, Jesus didn't even save them. Because you can look at the Congo, the kingdom of the Congo. They turned Christian, and we see it didn't save them. They were still, them Europeans were still over there snatching up people. Damn, this snatched up everybody, damn near everybody in the kingdom, to the point where the king had to write a letter telling them, "Hey, man, I don't, this can't be happening. We converted. We did what you said. Y'all still snatching up my people. What's going on?"
Yeah,
So Jesus didn't even save them.
yeah. At the end of the day, because really, that's really why some of them even converted. They converted for not only for trade, but also, because part of doing trade with them folks is that you had to be in position to actually communicate with what they had going on, and they wouldn't trading with you if they felt like you were a heathen, so to say, as they would proclaim people to be who do not follow the the uh, the Abrahamic faith. So in that conversion, which allowed you to be able to trade, similar to what they did over here with the Africans, the early Africans, by separating them, uh, the way that they actually did and giving more prowess to a preacher than they did to just a regular lay African that was over here that was enslaved. The preacher had more ability to move around because they was spitting that craziness. And if you look at the early history of Christianity in the Americas when dealing with the historical makeup of the African, look at all the people that actually took off under. This is why I charge Danny when he get to talking about them early Christians. These people that were converting, that were pastors and all of that, they were the first ones to not only, but they took advantage of the situation, but they were the first ones to get to Sierra Leone and Liberia to do what? Establish themselves and continue to basically do missionary work, uh, for the European, the colonizer, and helping them orchestrate and broker the things that need to be brokered to get to the interior of Africa. So it's one thing to praise these early Christians for the Africans, African American Christians who created all of these things, trying to look for solutions to problems. But it's another thing when on the flip side of it, they look like missionaries when they came back to Africa. That's why I did that. The birth of Liberia from a West African perspective presentation, because it specifically states from the people themselves that they looked at the African American as such, black missionaries.
Yeah, I was about to ask you before you said Liberia if you was talking the early Christians as far as coming over with the Portuguese and Spanish, or if you meant in the United States region, because you can see similar things take place there. But what's interesting about what happened in South America is they put a ban on those who had familiarity with Christianity, but it was more or less they was writing so many appeals about what was happening that they started seeking out what they called the Bozal Africans, meaning they was taking them without any kind of Spanish or Portuguese influence on them at all. So yeah, it's a very, very tangled and messed up history, and we need to be able to sort it out properly. I agree with you, Sean.
Y'all got anything else?
Nah, man. Nah, man. I don't see if anybody. I don't see nothing in the chat.
Yeah, ain't nothing in the chat. Well, on that note, man, we'll go ahead and end the show. I want to say Shimon Hotel, depart in peace. Catch y'all next week when the next show is up. Peace.
Peace, y'all.